Hello everyone, welcome to the Genesis Home Podcast, where we talk to experts in real estate, finance, business, community, and beyond, covering topics that are important to us. Let's listen in. Hi everyone, all our episodes of the Genesis Home Podcast is recorded using the Anchor app. If you haven't heard of Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. 1, it's free. 2, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Have a great day, everyone. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Rita, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Long time no see or hear.
Yeah, it's been a little while. We had a podcast conversation with on the Founders Live podcast a couple of years ago, and I'm really excited to get back in touch and catch each other up and share what's going on.
Yeah, because you've been pretty busy. I mean, for those who really are not familiar, I met Nick. Well, he's actually the founder of Founders Live, but you're kind of more like a global entrepreneur. So why don't you explain your empire, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. So Founders Live is really a global marketplace and community for early stage entrepreneurs. We really, what we say is we focus on, inspiring, educating, and entertaining early stage entrepreneurs through ways to bring people more connection to the network, access to information, access to resources and capital for growth, and lastly exposure, not just in their city or country but possibly around the world. And it's really exciting. We really achieve that through a combination of really a digital community and ecosystem plus pitch competitions that happen around the world. The short story is I started it in Seattle in 2014, and then we've grown now to about 90 cities around the world, and that's 27 countries. So a lot going on. I could go into the more origin story, but that's really the high level. It's pretty exciting, and it's really fun to see all the creative entrepreneurs from various countries around the world engage, participate in our events, and it's fun to get to know them.
What's really cool about it is the fact is how grassroots you are in the approach to building Founders Live. Was that the basis of it, like building something that is not just a necessity but can have a evolution to it?
Yeah, it is. It's always been in our DNA in terms of the grassroots nature of Founders Live. That's just kind of the way I've always been, and I feel like, and I'll go into the story because I think it's really important. But I think if someone would think like, why grassroots or what does that mean? I just believe that when you create a brand, by engaging people on the lowest level in terms of hierarchy, but from a membership to people in the community, to having those people grow your expand your vision and grow it is the most powerful thing, because when I guess what I would say is, when you're a founder or an entrepreneur and you have one or two people on your team and you're trying to push your agenda and try to grow your business, it's much better to have 100 or 500 or 1,000 people, sharing that vision with other people, and grassroots wise, it starts to really take hold. So word of mouth, people inviting other people. That's why we have events around the world. We have our events are fun. They're celebrations of entrepreneurship and they're pitch competitions. And we have city leaders. They're basically ambassadors that are the ones that are running the events in each city. They're the ones that are organizing them. And so now they're encouraging other people, random people that I don't even know, to join the thing, to participate, to attend our events. And all of a sudden now you have more and more people joining into the movement. And that's pretty powerful. So, grassroots, word of mouth, I would say it's top 2 or 3 things that you really want to look at as you're growing something, whatever that business or brand is, and whether that's locally in a city or globally as it expands to other places in the world.
So, as someone who does have when I met you, so let's be balanced here. When I met you, it was largely based out of Seattle, and then you had a couple of cities, one of them being New York. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing, sometimes you and I discuss this a lot about, what people see today, the global brands and the different, Founders Live events and, the podcasts, not just Founders Live, but the offshoots that you inspired. They see how like it looks so pretty, but
Mm-hmm.
you never hid. You were very transparent about the journey. Why was that transparency so important to you?
Yeah, I'm a pretty straightforward person, and I think that, I don't know, I uncovered fairly early in the process that there's a lot of fakeness, or there's a lot of I would say maybe just untruths about entrepreneurship and startups and all this, raising millions of dollars, and we're all great and shiny. And I think that there's a balance to it, but to me, I'm just an honest person, and I think that people respect and want authenticity in their life. And so that was just something that I've always had. But when I realized how we could grow
Do
Founders
you
Live. What's that?
Sorry, do you feel like that's what really drove the business or drove the brand to where it is right now, is that authenticity?
Yeah, I mean, it's our number one core value. We have 5 core values within the company, and they're pretty. We talk about them a lot. Our first core value is what we call is respectful authenticity. What that means is you can be yourself and be who you are and be authentic, but you must be respectful. And kind of the flip side of that is respecting others in their authentic selves, and that just really becomes inclusion. And so we really strive, and we talk about including everyone. It doesn't matter where you grew up, doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter what even language you speak. We hope that we can create an environment that is inclusive of people. And so when you look at that, and the word authenticity really is like, hey, look, we're going to speak the truth, and we're going to be authentic and true to what the journey has been. And it has not been easy. It's fun to be successful, and I can tell you that I'm a lot farther personally than I was 5-7 years ago. But this, the road is bumpy, and that's just the way it is. So I think other entrepreneurs and any Founders Live member deserves to hear that truth, because anything else is a lie, right? And why would I want to mislead people and lie, especially as a leader?
You mentioned a lot about authenticity and branding, and I think that part, like I said, and once again, to anyone to our listeners, I've talked to you a few times, so I can attest that you are a very authentic person.
Mhm. Yeah.
But you mentioned authenticity in branding or in, outreach or networking. What does authenticity mean to you as relation to your own personal entrepreneurial journey, and what does it mean for Founders Live and all the stuff you added on to that brand?
Yeah, for me, authenticity really, it just means you are your true self, your authentic self. I think people are in most powerful positions. I use the word power, meaning you're just energetically in a great place if you are being yourself, instead of, I think we've all been at networking events or whatever, just you're out in public and you're feeling unconfident, and you're like trying to, who should I be or what should I say? Like, you're not in a powerful position at that point. So by being your authentic self, I think that puts people in their most strongest position to be, just fun, like friendly and confident and successful. So that's just what it means to me personally, because anything else feels malaligned to maybe who you are. But as a brand, you look at that, and the way that we've done it is how you mesh the from the founder's voice to the brand's voice to then overall, once the company grows, to really the even employees and people associated with it voice. That just organically develops. But I think having the core values is really your leading indicator of what you stand for as the brand. That's what becomes authentic. Okay, so I speak about core values a lot, and that really is just what does this company stand for. And I would encourage you, no matter what type of company you have, I would encourage you to, especially if you're the founder and the person leading it is the executive and maybe the team, hey, determine what those are. You should stand for something. I mean, that's just my opinion, but so once the company can say, here's what our core values are, you then start having a foundation to stand on. And now authenticity can come through because you can speak about those topics. You can, encourage action around those. And, through your brand voice, you're going to repel some people. Hey, that's great. That's kind of what you want. You want to attract your core target market, and you want to repel the others that aren't. Just that's the way that business works. And so, yeah, I think that's coming back to authenticity. It's really authentic to what? Well, authentic to your core values. What are your core values? The things that we believe in, the change that we want to make, what we stand for, and how we want to impact the world. Those are the things that I think wrap into authenticity as a brand.
Does your core values match the core values of the company?
Yes, is absolutely. I mean, being the founder, it just kind of happened that way. The story was that I was just as we were really turning our first corner, as like basically Founders Live started as it was actually called Feature Friday, and it was in Seattle, and it was just a monthly, fun pitch competition gathering. And I was seeing that it was growing and things were happening. And so I really determined, like, okay, this could actually happen. This could work in other cities. We want to grow something larger. Clearly, I needed to create a new brand name. So I did a lot of kind of work under the hood, or a lot of work within, and we structured things and created the company, the brand, Founders Live, and then our plan to start to expand to other cities with this format of the event. That's really fun. And we highlight and celebrate early stage founders in all these cities. And one of my coaches sat down with me, and we started working through some really strong plans of how this is going to change from this little thing to like creating a company and expansion and growth. And one of the things he asked me was, all right, what is important to you? And we should probably put some things in here, some core values that are important. And so it started with me, right? He asked me what I was the only one there. I'm the founder, and also I'm the entire employee list. And so that was funny. And so, I obviously answered the questions, and yeah, they came from me. And I would suggest that when, especially an early stage startup or a company that has 5 or less employees, the founder and the executive, and maybe even that founding team, if it's a number of people, it's what they care about typically then falls into what the company is about. And it doesn't matter what you care about, it's that you care about something, and that you're putting that into a crystallized statements that then you can build around. And again, that's what attracts people, and also what it repels people. But you obviously want to attract a certain target market. So yeah, it was definitely me.
The one thing I did hear quite a bit was the ability to pitch. As someone who's also a member of Founders Live, the one thing I did love is how it was able to have like a focus group type environment. I think when I started my business, there was a lot of things I was trying to figure out and I had to figure it out all at the same time. And even though I couldn't go to the pitch events and I couldn't do all that part yet, the great thing about the group itself or the community itself was that it still had that focus group vibe that if I post something and you guys have questions, so that it can carry over between the pitch and that setup? Or was that just like, wow, I didn't realize that was going to happen?
Yes, it had always been our vision, and it's still very much our vision to have these various aspects of Founders Live, and the pitch events. In a way, they're slightly separate in the sense that that they're until the pandemic, they were physical manifestations. They were events. They were gatherings in person. So we had that in real life experience and the pitch events, and then there was like a digital community that was starting to form and growing. And so we wanted to create that environment where people could interact and anywhere you lived in New York, there was people that lived in other continents that were on there and interacting and all that. And so yeah, we've always wanted to figure out a way to merge the in-person real life. People are going to gather at places to celebrate entrepreneurship and hear and watch pitches, almost like this live Shark Tank thing. And we've definitely manifested that, which has been great. And then having a digital space that is almost like as like a group and almost, yeah, it's like it's cool. It's like a community and a group, and you can have either a small group or you can interact on a larger basis. That's always been the case. We are actually currently we are in transition right now. We're rolling out a lot of new stuff and new community and a lot of great things that we believe over time are just gonna really take that to the next level. But it's hard to. I will tell you this: it's hard to have in tandem a localized thing that people, whether they're in New York or Dallas or Jakarta, Indonesia, experience something and then also have this tied into a larger community and an engaging community space. Those are not easy to work together with because they have different dynamics. We feel like we've done a good job, but we're still learning a lot and tweaking as we can.
What do you think is the biggest aha moment so far in your entrepreneurial career and I'm gonna say career of Founders Live?
Yeah, there's been so many. I would say a few of them are, going back to let's go back to the core values and the uniqueness differentiation. I would say a very strong aha moment. I don't want to say that there was like a light bulb, like literally like bing, but it took a little time to realize that, it feels weird sometimes, but when you do craft these core values and the things that your brand is about, the further you can crystallize those and the more you talk about them, that's actually how a lot of the growth happens. Because in the sea of business and things going on, I'm just, I'm waving my hand here, like in the sea all over the place, there is so many options of products and things to use and blah, 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 and communities to join. What makes you different? And so use that as a powerful advantage, is that if you create that differentiation and you create those, I always say this, it's like create the what does Jane tell Joe, right? Like
Ooh, that's good.
yeah, when they talk about your brand, how does person A refer it and talk to person B? You need to get onto this. You need to check this out. And so those, it's like short sentences. It's like, and we have been known a lot up to this point as like this, 99-second pitch competition. So for background, everyone, our events, they're in, during the pandemic, we went virtual, but typically, and we're now going back to in person. These are like, yeah, these are fun events. They're gatherings, food, drink, whatnot. And then we pre-select 5 early stage startups or, founders, but it needs to be a company in somewhat form. And they get on stage and they pitch, but it's a 99-second pitch, like value proposition pitch. Here's who we are. Here's what we're doing. Here's the uniqueness, blah, blah, blah. And it's 99 seconds timed. And then there's 4 minutes of questions from the audience. That's where people can ask a little more deep questions on, either the team or the technology or the competition or whatever. And then the 5 presenters, cycle through that fashion of pitching and questions. And then the audience votes on a winner. And so, we are like 99 seconds. Why not 90 or 2 minutes? Because no one claimed that 99-second pitch, and we did. And we're, so people remember that. And so, hey, it's that 99-second pitch thing, and then, hey, I mean, we hear it all the time that especially in-person events, people come to these events and they're just like, oh my God, like this is the coolest event I've been to. So we've created this format and we know that it's inspiring and we know that there's like, the first core value is respectful authenticity. And we talk about it on stage. What do you think is going to happen in that room? It's going to be very authentic and respectful. So, when you just kind of think about things like that, I would say the one big aha moment was absolutely like really figure those details out of your brand and how they stand out in the market. And that will take you a long way, because the moment Jane is telling Joe, like how many Janes and how many Joes are there all over the world? And you want them to start talking about why that they think your thing is unique and why they should, you should check it out, or you should join this, you should go. So that's a huge aha moment, really figuring out your brand, your core values, and how do you inspire others to carry on that message to their friends.
You mentioned the pandemic, and a lot has happened during that time. Besides, Black Lives Matter and, all the other, with the change in the culture during the pandemic, how does Founders Live establish a footing in those intense moments? Because you've had a few virtual seminars and virtual conversations about it, and how as entrepreneurs we navigate through it and what our views on it are, and we've discussed it a couple of times. But I was always really curious of how do you maintain a level head and how do you maintain the business without kind of succumbing to a trend?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really good way to ask the question. We, interestingly enough, just from let's call it an inclusion standpoint, before all that happened in 2020, this was already a topic. Like basically we started, even before all that, we started to use the term entrepreneurial equality within, our speaking and talking about our core values. And that's why like the first core value really, it orients around what we call entrepreneurial equality. In the end, it doesn't matter. It's not important that, someone speaks a certain way or was like, again, we're in like 27 countries. So it doesn't matter where you grow up. It doesn't matter what language you speak. Everyone deserves the opportunity for success. Now, capabilities and other things of that matter. And we're fixing that through access to information and education and learning. And, but the opportunity should be, the ability for that opportunity should be with everyone. We were talking about that beforehand. Now, when everything happened, or just like when it was, in terms of Black Lives Matter and, a lot of the injustices, it really just, I guess to answer your question, we just have maintained our stance and our voice and what we say. Just, it almost, it amplified things a little bit, but it just pointed out that it was even more important. And so, how do you maintain it? I think you just like have your values in place and your determinations outside of these things that pop up. The things that pop up, the events or the unfortunate tragedies, are simply showing what's wrong with the world. And so I think it's kind of too bad that all these companies will make a major announcements for 2 weeks and then it's business as usual. That kind of bothers me. But we were talking about this beforehand. It now is much more clear. And for us, it's really about opening up more opportunities as we continue further for people that are in underrepresented groups, so that they can continue to grow and be successful and have everything that they believe they need for success. And that's different. The craziest thing, Rita, is it's like, okay, we're here in the United States, but what is that in Indonesia? It's not necessarily the same exact situation or challenges. And what is that in, hey, Nigeria, in Kenya, in Zimbabwe? The dynamics of underrepresentation or of needed areas, it's simply different in all these countries. And so that's a challenge for Founders Live, but it's also an opportunity to learn and help people in other ways. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. It's difficult. It's, it's very, things are shifting and changing all the time. So it's really hard. That's why you just have to have a stance, and you move forward with your stance and your goals in that direction.
I respect the fact that you've mentioned the needs are different in depending on the circumstances or the country or the area. That's a very so I it's a very global citizen perspective on business. And do you feel like sometimes by having that stance you're met with the assumption that it's our job to make them plug into your ideas, or for you to understand how those needs have to be met? Like where's the line?
Yeah, that's another great point. This is one thing we learned in the last couple of years, but especially the last year. So for instance, the experience with Africa and a lot of our cities in Africa, they love Founders Live. It's like we've been there, in a number of cities for a while, and it's fun. Like, it's all good. One thing we did here though is they said, hey, because we have resources and benefits for presenting and pitching at our events and things that we can provide to the startups pitching. And, they basically said, hey, could these be more relevant to us? Could these be more helpful to me being a founder in Africa versus, these things seem to be oriented a little more from United States or, North America. So that was a really interesting, when I first really heard that, I was like, oh, hey, this is interesting. And it helped me reverse my perspective, which was this. Even though it's like, hey, it's cool, this is Founders Live, I started it here in the United States, and, this is all good. But I realized, like, who am I, or who are we as an organization or an executive team to make decisions on getting, quote, resources and help to people, wherever they are in the world, when those people are like saying, well, here's the challenge here. I'm in Zimbabwe. These are my needs and what I need and want in terms of how to move forward. Can there be things that are a little more relevant to me being in this part of the world with these actual issues or challenges on the ground? And so that's just one example. We have 5 regions of the world. It could be the same in Europe and Southeast Asia and all that. So it was a very much a wake up call to, you can think about that layer as there's a massive, like we have probably 10, 15, if not 20 years of work ahead of us to continually remove or, figure out these layers and get the resources and help specifically around those areas of the world that are the most appropriate and relevant to the people in that area, rather than just saying, hey, here's like 5 or 10 things that are US based and take them or leave them. And I think that's the biggest challenge is to what we're going to need to do is really continue to create partnerships and build out resources and connections in pretty much every corner of the world so that we can get those to the people that need them the most. And depending on where you are, we'll determine the things that you probably will utilize, as opposed to just throwing things, thinking that this is really a US American centric way to think that, oh, this person or these people just need these things. That's not the case. They have their unique needs and desires and issues, and they need to be met by probably most likely relevant resources oriented in their part of the world, in their currency, in their, so it became very amazing. Like I started to really realize how, not only how big this problem is, how the biggest opportunity we have, but also people, the dynamic nature of what people need around the world is not exactly what you think they need.
You mentioned about the importance of partnerships and communication, also on top of the pandemic. But I wanted to also, Genesis is very big on mental health and how we should take time out for ourselves and address the core issues of why we do the things we do. And you stated before, which is absolutely correct, that there was so much happening with Black Lives Matter, with these atrocities, the COVID-19, and how everyone's addressing that. How does the business, and the reason I mention you and the business separately is because I know you're your own person and that's how that works. And I know that the business has its own, ecosystem. They have its own voice. It has its own, entity. But how do you address mental health in a community that's so large and incredibly diverse? Because you mentioned it yourself, like what works for Western countries or for the United States, it may not apply to the UK or apply to, I don't know, let's pick one, Egypt. So,
yeah.
So how do you address that, knowing that that's a very real thing happening, especially amongst, the entrepreneurial or small business community?
Yeah, it's not easy at all, and it's not easy on a individual personal level, but it's also not easy, obviously, on different parts of the world, different areas of the world issue. The short answer is I think it's important to raise the conversation in ways that normalize it. I have a theory, honestly. My quick theory is I think the pandemic really brought this to the front of a lot of what's going on. Here's an anecdote, if you're a sports fan at all, but the Olympics of the summer and the Olympics of the winter, even just watching those and just seeing the athletes like melt down, and Simone Biles had her things going on, and honestly, I think when you look at what the magnifying glass that we just put on those athletes, and they cracked. And I don't remember a time where so many athletes were kind of cracking on, camera, like on the global stage of the Olympics. And I think that's almost a little bit of an indication of where we're at in the world, and just everyone is done with, we can't take anymore, and we're breaking in those ways, and it's okay. And so, like, from our standpoint, I think from entrepreneurs, we want to continue to bring that conversation to the forefront, just to at least say, look, it's normal to hit the wall. It's normal to have burnout, but let's have the conversation of what happens next, how to deal with it, how to focus on your mental and physical wellness, how to understand that this is a long path. This ain't a sprint, it's a long path, and it's important for you as an executive and you as a professional to take care of yourself in all aspects, so that you can, achieve what you want to achieve. And so I think that's important. Specifically, what people in other parts of the world, like Egypt, or in Jakarta, Indonesia, whatever, we can only do so much in terms of the resources right now. Our hope is that we can continue to surface more, but at least bring that conversation to at least the surface. And again, being mindful of, like, it's not, we don't want to, like, every day it's, oh, woe is me, like, here's another thing around mental health. That's not really our the general focus, but it's a part of the entrepreneurial conversation. So we will have those, and we have talks every so often around this topic. We have in our new community, there will be information and channels around this. So to surface the right information, podcasts, resources, I will share a podcast that I believe has just really been there for me for a long time, which is the Reboot podcast. The individual's name is Jerry Colonna, and he started Reboot, which is a great leadership organization. They, really focus on helping individuals really find their leadership strengths and all that. And the podcast has been going for 5-6 years now, and I've probably listened to every single one. And it's Jerry, who is a coach, a CEO coach and executive coach, that is he basically just has a live session with usually it's a founder and an entrepreneur, and they go deep, and they go really deep. And you can listen to that and really think about your own life. And it's almost like you're in a session, kind of hearing from a third party. So just resources like that. Like, are you listening to stuff that helps you go through this? Are you getting individual coaching or therapist that is tremendously necessary? Those are the things that are at least a start. Yeah.
That's really good. And thank you for the podcast. I might actually check that out.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned a new community.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah. So so Founders Live has really made it is this kind of more shift. A lot of it is just evolutionary from the pandemic, but we have now opened a new community. We're calling it the Arena. Really just arena full of entrepreneurs, and as everyone, you'll see with Founders Live, there is this fun, like, angle of the whole thing that's kind of around rock star or entertainment. You'll just notice a lot of the visuals that I think it's me, I think I was a rock star in a past life, or wanted to be, but didn't. That's not this life. But I think what's really amazing is that going back to, like, the core values and stuff, is like how you differentiate around a certain tone or feeling or sense. And you'll see with Founders Live, it's this sense that I believe all early. It doesn't matter how early you are. I think all entrepreneurs are rock stars and in their own way. And so that's really what the goal that we want to paint. So we called it the arena, and it's a Discord community. So we just opened it up, and we're starting to build that out and bring in, now our community will kind of start coming in there and interact there. And there's going to be, we have, we're just now rolling out our new membership options. The first level is what we call front row, and that's like, and this is assuming that, look, there's free, in terms of free member, you're a fan, what we call that, and just you're gonna be around the community and the events, those don't really cost anything, and you can interact and you get our newsletter and you do all the good stuff. But we're now building out a more dynamic and kind of enhanced community involving the paid member position. And so the front row membership is $9.99 a month. And that just gives people a lot more content and unique experiences and some more channels. And the way that we've broken it down is as further paid membership, the person gets more curated content and opening, you kind of unlock more of the channels, which is great. And with that front row membership, there's like, there will be discounts when we start charging for like merchandise and some other stuff. And so it's just, great benefits, and you're a paid member. And then the other one is actually what we're calling professional, and it's geared towards people that I absolutely identify with. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to grow. I want to learn more. I want to, have mentors and advisors. I actually have a business. I want exposure, and I want that business to grow. And so with that is $55 a month. And that's really more resources for us founders to continue to grow, learn and expand and become more successful with our business. So the difference between those two is the lower tier is less around growth as a founder and learning and education. It's more just quality content and, essentially being in the front row for things. And then the further one is, or the one above, is more investing in yourself and your business for that. And so we're really excited.
This sounds more like campus style, less, community based. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because if you go to like, I'm a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a deep dark secret. So the company I'm with EXP, they have EXP virtual. And depending on what you need, like if you have like office spaces and you meet with an advisor, has a different setup than, just you being part of the community. And I think that's really smart in the sense of you see where people's commitment is at, or their progress in their journey, and it still ties in with that community collective that you have. So I think that's really cool, because when I got the message and it was just really interesting, I just didn't understand what was going on, but I thought it was really, really cool when I read it.
Yeah. Well, we're teasing it out. So as we talk, literally today, as we talk, we're now releasing to our waiting list, our smaller VIP list from our community that signed up, said, hey, I want first dibs on it. We have also created within that what we're calling the Founders Live Insider group that is, and Rita, you are a part of this, and you'll get more information here soon. But we've basically said, all right, the first 500 members that, from today going forward, the first 500, and it's starting at 500, it'll probably grow larger. We wanted to create this group that is this kind of amorphous group that has taken steps to, they're just like, it's the internal, like it's the nucleus group. They they believe in us the first, they took the steps the first, and what we're calling the Founders Live Insiders, that then will have all these additional benefits. It's just going to be the group that, as we continue to grow larger, it's that internal group that will receive things first. will have priority. Maybe we bring early products to them first for them to test out and give feedback on, to really help us. We want to do special things for the insiders, such as, like fun, as tokens and NFTs come even more predominant, giving, you can automatically drop to people. You can literally go, boom, we just gave you something really cool. And we can do that, specifically to this group. And, things like, I'm not saying we're going to do this soon, but what if we put on like a private, fun invite only gathering on an island or something, and, have it for just the insiders to celebrate. So things of that nature. It's almost like a new concept on a loyalty program that is much more, much more priority, and it takes a little bit to get in that group. Going forward, there will be ways to enter and be accepted into this membership, this aspect of the group, or earn it, if you will, outside of this. We're just kind of starting it with, hey, anyone that jumps in this week, or it's up to in March 4th, it's open, and we're aggregating the first 500. It probably will close before then, but that's just in terms of insiders. And that's simply someone purchasing either the front row membership or the professional level membership. And once we hit that 500 level, we're going to, quote, close that opportunity up from the insider standpoint, and the memberships will still be available. Okay. So like insiders are different than having a membership regardless. We're just giving incentive for people to act now and kind of take that leap now. And then we're excited to build out what insiders really means over time. And, clearly it'll be available to other people going forward. So, I think in the end, what you're hearing here is we're having fun experimenting and really looking at how to bring much more value to the community, and layer on that next layer is really about, how do we bring things to people to help them move forward, give them more quality content, help them feel like they're a part of the community and network, engage in where they want. Look, there's free options. There's, $10 a month options. There's, more than, $55 a month options. That's, we want to bring people to where they feel comfortable and how they want to engage. So it's been really fun.
Well, speaking as someone who was part of this, not exactly from the beginning, but like beginning-esque, I can honestly say that I am really excited about the next chapter and what comes from that. Because even if the great thing about Founders Live and the great thing about you specifically was the fact that everything was an experiment, and if the experiment worked, we kept it, and if it didn't, it kind of just petered out. But it was no pressure, and you have this way of making it that it's not us being part of, it's not about, okay, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but the best way to put it is we got to test out what fits for our business. And if it made sense to a collective, then it made sense to Founders Live.
Yeah.
And I really had a lot of respect for that. But really quick, what do you see as a future for entrepreneurs? Because besides social media and everything, we both know that certain things have peaks and valleys. So what's the future for entrepreneurship for you think would be a brand? What do you see brands looking like, that whole idea?
Well, the simplest answer is, I think entrepreneurship is going to be, or continues to be, more important every single year. And it just everything is moving towards a more unstable world, but a more uncapped, kind of like no ceiling world. If there's no limit in some ways. And I don't, look, I don't think that that's 100% healthy, but the point is that there is if you go out 10, 20, 30 years, there will be more importance and need for, quote, entrepreneurship than there even is now. and that's where we believe we want to just, sit and be the leader. So, when you look at certain technologies, and I do think social media is, I think it's at a really interesting turning point in the life in people's lives. And so I'm not sure, is it, like, should you totally lean on TikTok now to build a company? I'd probably not lean on only TikTok to build a brand. I think when you look at Instagram about 5 years ago, that's kind of where TikTok is now. These platforms and channels are just ways to reach people, but they're not the end all be all. So I don't know what comes next, and we're looking at it, but what I will say is, the best advice that I would say is really think through as an individual. Okay, how do I want to make impact? And that's how do I, as a person, and then creating your company, how do we want to impact people around the world purposefully? And then you can use these either social media channels, platforms, whether it's AR, VR, blah, blah, blah. You can use those to achieve that goal of impact. It's probably not smart to attach your impact to a technology. We want to be the best AR, VR thing. Well, who knows where that's going to go in 5 years? But maybe thinking a little deeper on what does that mean and how does that impact people? What do you want to bring to the world? You can use various methods and channels. We will probably have in-person live events for a long time because people want to gather and they want to, handshake and hug each other. Yet we can do that in VR and, other places as well. And so I would just say, thinking about, understanding that the world is leading towards entrepreneurship. It's important to really look at how do you want to make impact. And then you can start looking at what channels to bring that to people, and know that some of those are going to fall. Like, we have a war going on somewhere in the world right now, and they're just severing the access to some of these social platforms. So it's probably not smart to attach your business to one platform. You want to look at the variety of them and how you bring that message to the world in various ways, so that you're not only beholden to one channel that could actually be turned off in any minute. So hopefully that helps.
It does. It does. And it's very important to have that kind of, to mention that, is because you're seeing so many people dependent upon TikTok and Instagram as their like main revenue streams or main ways to communicate. And, not all businesses use social media. I mean, you use it, and you've used it for Founders Live and used it for your own personal stuff, but it's not your crutch.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're not having that conversation enough, that we are so dependent upon this as a crutch that we're missing out on the other opportunities. So I really wanted to see your perspective on this, as someone who's really built a global brand in a way that would consider on a local level like a mom and pop shop.
Yeah. Thanks. And I would maybe just add to that before we're done here. I would add that, in some ways, we probably, and me personally, haven't leveraged the social experiences, social media experiences, as maybe I could have. Now, I don't have any regrets, and it's fine. So, when you think about where you're at in your journey, where anyone's at in their journey, what are the options here, and what should we use? Just know that these are numerous options. There's things out there, and you can check that out. But over dependence on one or a few is definitely not the right choice in my mind. And so you really just want to look at how you're leveraging, like, take advantage if it seems to be flowing for you, and that's great. But always look at what are the other things, so that if you do need to diversify, which is probably important, you have that diversification. And last thing I'll say here is, look, we're in like 90 cities right now, and sometimes I sit back and I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And what's beautiful is always, and this is already true, and it's always going to be true with Founders Live, there's going to be cities that they quiet down for some reason, and there's cities that light up. And because we're so diverse in the areas that we are in the world, there's less of a drop, right? There can be drops, and sometimes there are, but by having activity in all these cities and countries, already I've seen that Founders Live it's like a 90-leg stool, not a 2-leg or 3-leg stool. Really important. Really important. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nick. Any advice or tips for future entrepreneurs and business people that are not as goofy as I
am? Be serious about it, but experiment. And I can tell you that the best thing that someone can do is, with the least amount of time, have an idea, through the least amount of time, put something together, put it out there, and see what happens. Worst case scenario is nothing or very little. Best case scenario is, oh, wow, there's something here. And I would just, I decided to throw literally it was a party, but I decided to throw an event in 2014 in Seattle. And that literally was 8 years ago right now. We were planning it. And I think it was the March 29th, and March 29th of 2014, very first Founders Live, or it was Feature Friday. And by holding that event, changed my life, and now it's reaching people around the world. So do experiments, take time to put something together, see how you want to impact people, and you're gonna learn a lot, but it could totally change your life.
That's a great way to end. Thank you so much, Nick. How does anyone find you?
Thank you, Rita. Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn, Nick Hughes. You can find me on Facebook, Nick Hughes. I don't use Facebook as much anymore. Instagram, if you search that, then you can let's see, founderslive.com. You'll see stuff. You can check it out. Hey, if you want to join membership, you'll be able to do that soon. If you're hitting this very soon, you might see a join the waiting list. So it's probably a good thing to get on. And then, just feel free to reach out. I'm definitely available.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you, Rita. It's been great to talk with you again, and I'm excited to continue further and, still have you in our community.
Oh, always.
Yes, always. So great. Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.